So thank you guys for joining us for Oak Nights. I am super excited to have my friend Jessica from Discovering Wilderness joining us this month. We're going to be talking all about Trailside Meals. So as I'm getting us kicked off, just so you know what's going on, we've got Jessica getting some water going in the background for a little cooking experiment we're going to run throughout the presentation tonight, and just talking about freezer bake cooking and some of the benefits and some of the ways that you can keep your meals warm. So more to come on that. I want to kick us off by talking about some of your food options when you're out on the trail. We're going to focus a lot on freezer bake cooking, and I'll get into what that is in a second, but there are other options for packing your food. One is that you don't have to cook at all. You can very easily, depending on how long your trip is going to be, come with nothing but pre-prepared foods that are ready to eat without any cooking whatsoever. Whether it's an already put together sandwich from Subway, those actually travel really well, or it's just a mix of, I'm going to space the name of the brand now. Brand name goes here, granola bars, and that's all you eat for the entire trip. My brother has done that, and I don't know how he has managed to do that, but we have gone where that's the only thing he eats the entire time, and water. Awful.
How long will he do that for?
I've seen him do it for a full day.
Oh.
So not extended trips. I think that would get really old really fast. But I have seen him do it for an overnight. And then you can do one extreme, which is you bring everything to cook. Maybe the point of your trip isn't so much about the hiking in and of itself. You're not as worried about weight. You're getting to camp, maybe you're going with friends, or maybe it's just for you, and the cooking is really important to you. So you bring a steak and a cast iron skillet and all the goodies that go with that. Probably not going to be trekking too terribly far with that, although I did recently meet a PCT hiker, and that's his preferred method of cooking on long distance trails. So to each their own. You'll find what works for you. What we're going to focus on tonight is freezer bag cooking. There are two ways to use a freezer bag in your cooking. One is to do what's called a cold soak, where, again, there's no actual heat and cooking involved. You have your ingredients ready to go in a bag or other waterproof container. You let it soak for an extended period, and then you have a cold meal, but it's rehydrated. So maybe not quite as boring as the name brand goes here, granola bars for a day. Something a little bit different in texture, but still cold. What we're going to focus on is using a cook system with freezer bag cooking, which gives a whole variety of options that kind of, in my opinion, and I'll let Jessica chime in when she's not focused on putting together our experiment, it's kind of the best of all worlds. You get to have some foods that are ready to go before you set out. You can do a degree of cooking by bringing your ingredients separate and putting them together and doing some in-camp cooking. It's super easy. It's super lightweight. We're going to get into some more of the details on the benefits. But that's, in my opinion, the best of all worlds. You get a little bit of cooking, you still get the ease and convenience, and you get something hot, which, especially with the cold weather we've had lately, is really nice to get you warmed up from the inside out as you're maybe at the end of your night, or even just warming up on a longer day trip with a warm lunch. How's it coming over there?
It's good.
All right.
So, this is just boiling water. It is nearly boiling, so it's not even a rapid boil. And it was 180 degrees when I put it in that bag. We're just making oatmeal, just instant oatmeal.
With raisins.
With raisins, that's right. Great breakfast. A great use for this method.
So the little experiment we're going to be running while she's focused on measuring here is we've got 2 equal servings of instant oatmeal ready to go with raisins, because I like raisins in my oatmeal. I don't know about you guys. And then we're putting in an equal amount of boiling hot water. We're doing an experiment where we are doing the freezer bag exposed, and we've got a thermometer, same brand of thermometer even, going into each bag to see what the heat loss is like in your standard freezer bag when you're cooking versus heat loss when you're insulating with Cozy. And we're just going to let that cook in the background while we're talking and checking on the temperature a couple of times and see what that difference looks like. I mentioned how good it is to have that warm meal at the end of the day, or at the start of your day, or in the middle of your day, or, even middle of the afternoon, not really a meal, you just feel like you want something hot to eat. freezer bag cooking is excellent for that.
Yes.
I don't want to pull you away from your experience.
I'm almost done.
All right. Well, I will just keep us rolling then.
Okay.
We'll be flexible. So I mentioned how easy it can be to get out with your freezer bag cooking. So one of the ways in which it's super easy is the minimal weight. So if you are imagining that cast iron skillet with your steak dinner out on the trail, you're looking at several pounds just in the skillet alone. Then you've got the utensils you need to be able to handle that skillet, handle the steak itself. You need a plate to eat on, you need a knife to cut it. That all adds up very quickly, and we haven't even talked about the food yet. So fresh ingredients definitely comes with some weight payoff and weight trade-off. A couple of things that you can do with freezer bag cooking that make it really easy. There's a few different ways that you can go about it. Traditional systems, and we didn't bring a fuel canister in for safety reasons. We didn't want to be hauling around fuel all over the place. But you get these nice, easy little stoves. I'll fold out real quick here. Super easy, weighs just a few ounces, goes right on the top of a fuel canister. You set a pot on top of that. I do enjoy having some visual aids for you guys to check out. And when we're done, if anybody wants to come take a closer look at any of these, you are welcome to do so. Let's see if I can get this out. It's always harder with an audience. There we go. So super lightweight. Of course, now I notice that Jessica has another one out, and I could have just picked that up.
Oh, but yours is bigger.
It is a little bit bigger. They come in all kinds of sizes. Mine also has this handy flip-out handle. There we go. So, balances on top. Can be a little tricky. It does require balancing. Finding a flat spot on the ground in the Pacific Northwest, depending on where you're at, can be a little challenging. But all you do is you boil your water, pour it into your freezer bag, and wait. It's that easy. You can make it a little bit more complicated. There's a couple things you can do. You can bypass having to prep your food at all. There are a variety of brands out there where you can find a ready-to-eat meal in a bag. You cook right in the bag. You don't have to take anything out, and you let it cook. Amount of water is right on the packaging. They even will usually have a line. Let's see, this brand doesn't do that. Some of them will have a line where it just tells you fill to here with water and how long. This brand does it. They've got a measuring along the side, and you fill the water to that point, and then you just wait. They zip up at the top, so very similar to a freezer bag. Some of the drawbacks with that is you get what's in the packaging versus preparing yourself. You can buy in bulk, which may cut down on price. These can be very expensive. And by prepping your own, you know what goes into it. There tend to be a lot of preservatives and sodium in the pre-packed meals. So if you're being very conscious about what you're eating, that might not be the best route for you. There are a lot of different brands out there though. So if you're looking for something that is vegetarian or vegan or gluten-free or dairy-free, I guarantee you it's out there, but you're gonna pay for that. And Jessica, I know you've done more with different recipes than I have. Anything to chime in regards to prepping your own versus going store-bought route?
Sure, yeah. So we do more prepping our own. I just love to cook in general. And then there are cookbooks out there even for freezer bag cooking. So Sarah Kirkconnell, she's actually in Washington as well. She started this method herself about 20 years ago and made it really popular in this area. And she's how I originally learned about it. And I love the fact that you can just follow a recipe like you would be making anything at home. And you can control, like she was saying, what's in it, if you have allergies. And then it actually is way cheaper because you can buy things in bulk, like you buy spaghetti, you buy ramen noodles, you buy freezer-dried chicken, which when you buy a container of it, it seems pretty pricey, but when you realize you have maybe 50 servings in there, it really makes it a lot more affordable. I brought samples of just some veggies that I dehydrated. These are apples, and then these are zucchinis, just little bits that you can even dehydrate in your oven. It's pretty easy these days to just take any vegetable from the store, chop it up small, and dehydrate it in your oven for a couple hours. Mix that with maybe a sauce packet, like the Lipton noodle kind of sauce packets. We made spaghetti that way last time we were out and really liked it.
Favorite for me is mashed potatoes, instant mashed potatoes. I like the density of it. At the end of the day, it's heavy, it's stick to your ribs kind of food, and it's really easy to take those mashed potatoes and make a lot of variety really easily. I haven't quite reached Jessica's status with dehydrating my foods in my oven yet. It's a plan for this year to get there. But what I will do is I'll take a packet of onion dip mix or ranch mix and a little bit of that as seasoning in the mashed potatoes. Changes up your flavor a little bit. Some bacon bits travel really well. Cheese also travels really well. So a little bit of cheese, a little bit of bacon bits, a little ranch powder, and I've got fully loaded mashed potatoes on the side of the trail. It's delicious. The flavor's a little different if you're doing multiple day. It's easy to have a main meal, but with just a little bit of lightweight seasonings, change up what that taste is going to be. And another thing I run into, I don't know if you run into this too, is my tastes change from when I pack to when I'm actually out on the trail, to where the thing that sounded super good when I packed it, by the time I'm sitting down to eat it, oh, maybe not so much anymore. It's night and day difference between what sounded really excellent and now I'm looking at my instant teriyaki chicken and I really don't want instant teriyaki chicken. So having those really lightweight spice options to change up a basic food like potatoes works really well for me, because if I'm not in the mood for the ranch anymore, I'll just put in the salsa flavoring instead, and now I've got something spicy and completely different palate.
That's really smart. We've made these little goodie bags for all of you ladies to take when we're done, and there's 3 different recipe cards in here. One of them is a cheesy bacon mashed potatoes, which is like what she was talking about. And then there's a creamy chicken rice, and then there's a fruity couscous. So couscous is a great alternative to oatmeal when you're out and about. It's very hearty, cooks just like oatmeal does.
So one of the other great benefits with getting freezer bag cooking as a way to go about is we've talked about buying in bulk. That also means that you have less waste that you're taking into the backcountry with you. So instead of having a wrapper from every granola bar you unwrap, and instead of having a wrapper from every meal that you open, because once you've opened these, now you've got the top that's probably completely separated. It's an easy little piece to lose. If you're bringing a Subway sandwich, now you've got that wax-lined paper with you. With freezer bag cooking, everything's contained within a bag, because I know you guys need a visual example. Everything's in your bag. You have no extra trash. It eliminates that potential that you're going to be losing your little bits of micro trash or micro litter. And then when you're done, you've got a couple of options. If you're doing a multi-day trip, you can reuse a freezer bag multiple times. They're really durable. They hold up really well. The weak point on a freezer bag, I'll say from experience, is the point above the zipper. That seam tends to be where they come apart. But if you're careful of that, and even if it rips just a little bit above the zipper, you can still reuse that for multiple meals. Just wash it out when you're done. Really easy to do. I recommend, this is from my personal kitchen here, cut off piece of a blue scrubby sponge. Just be careful, don't use the scrubby side too vigorously on your bag. You can rip a hole in it. And you don't need to take this big of a container, but this is my full container of Camp Suds. Super powerful little soap. A little drop goes a long ways. You can clean your bag out completely with it. Of course, you want to dispose of your what's called gray water responsibly by either burying it or scattering it far from water sources, putting in that environmental disclaimer always. But you can use a bag easily over half a dozen times. I know that I've gotten them right about, I think 6 to 8 is probably about the lifespan I've gotten out of them meal-wise. And then once they're done, they can become a trash bag, which is now another piece of trash you actually don't need to have. If it becomes your trash bag, you don't need that trash bag as a separate piece of plastic. So it's just another way that it can contribute to having less of an impact overall.
Yeah, I like to use mine for bathroom trash. I'll just tuck the bag somewhere in a pocket that I can get to when I have to go use the restroom out in nature, because I don't want to leave any toilet paper behind. And then I was going to point out, both of us brought different options for bags other than just a disposable freezer bag, because people in the community talk about how it is also a version of waste, right? So these are a couple different silicone bags, and I got these originally because they stand up, but I'll pass it around. It's pretty heavy, and a lot of backpackers are very weight sensitive, so you can see the difference just holding these two. This is a different brand, but it's also a different style, so it doesn't stand up. And I have yet to use these to actually cook a meal in. I recently got them, so I'll try them in the future, but I wanted to share those as options.
I've used the one with the slider lock on it myself, and one of the main things I don't like about using the silicone bags is that it's hard to get the oils off of it.
I've used them for snacks, just taking
Yeah.
them to work, and I feel the same way. Crumbs don't come off of it very easily.
It's good to know. Yeah, I haven't tried silicone yet for meals. I've used them for snacks. And I've noticed the crumbs are a pain to get out. But I really have just mostly used them for trail mix. So.
Oh, the other one feels better though. It doesn't feel like it's gonna collect stuff as much.
The Rezip, the thinner
Yeah, the
ones.
Rezip.
Yeah. And the stand-up element of it is not really that important, but I wanted to try it because when you have bigger meals that you're cooking in there, with the cozy system, you might be worried about it tipping over. But really, I just do this anytime I'm out. I just prop it up against something, like a tree, or just once I'm done with my stove, if it's cool enough, I may just lean up against that or against my water bottle. So what this method is, there are individuals who would do freezer bag cooking or use this and then just use their hat to keep the food warm. And that's the little experiment that we're doing here, just to show how much of the heat from the boiling water dissipates into the environment. And we're about halfway through. Most food soaks for 10 to 15 minutes. So I'll tell you what the temperature difference is when you're done. One downside to using your hat is that if you're a messy eater, you might get food on your hat, and then you have to put that on your head. And if you sleep with it at night, you might get squirrels or ants or whatever joining you in bed. So if you like to have a dedicated food kit, a cozy is a great alternative to that. So I've been making these for a little over a year. They are insulated, so I'll pass one around as well. It's just a normal cotton on the outside, but inside is a material called Insulbrite, and it's reflective. It's kind of like the stuff you would make an oven mitt out of, but it's crunchy because it has that silver lining that is what's reflecting the heat back into the food while it sits and cooks. So pass that around. So all you do is you put the water in like we did, seal it up, and then stick it in the cozy. Just set it somewhere while you do whatever. Take a nap, read a book, take a little hike. Yeah, set up your tent or your hammock, whatever you're using. So that's one of my favorite benefits. It's so simple, and you can multitask while you're out in nature and not have to slave over a lot of dishes that you have to clean up afterwards, or you don't have to bring knives to prep anything because you can do it all at home. And they're really lightweight, so for a lot of backpackers, again, it's very much about how much weight you're carrying. And food itself can be heavy, so when you dehydrate things, you're taking water weight out. Water's very heavy. We don't think about it. Even just the water in an apple compared to a dehydrated little bits of apple, you're saving a ton of weight, and then you're going to have water with you anyways. And the cozies themselves are very light, crunchy or crumbly, so you can just squish them in any pocket, any corner.
One thing that I found that works really well, so if you get one of these pots, they're sold in a kit. This one has a measuring cup that fits inside. It's made to fit your fuel canister inside. It's a nice, very full kit when it's done, which is space saving and great, but there's no room for other stuff. So what I ended up doing, because there's a reason that Jessica's my go-to pro on freezer bag cooking, it's because this is my tried and true freezer bag cozy, and I use it to hold my other odds and ends together for my cooking. So my camp sleds go in, my sponge goes in a plastic bag so that it's keeping everything dry because it will soak everything else. And my spork goes in because it doesn't fit in my camp kit. And then other little bits that I can put in here. I try to keep anything that's in here odor-proof so that the fabric doesn't absorb anything other than water. It's more than once had some hot water spilt on it. It cleans up just fine. But some odor-proof bags are a great option for that as well. And there are different brands out there that you can try. This is a brand new unused one, but I have one that's gone on several trips, dozens and dozens, not quite yet to hundreds and hundreds of miles, but dozens and dozens of miles, and it held up really, really well. Odor-proof works great for keeping that dirty sponge from having an odor and soaking into things. It works well for holding your trash if you're going to be out multiple days because you want to make sure your trash doesn't smell and start to attract critters. And then this is just a different brand. You can see this one has had some wear and tear on it, and they hold up really, really well. I'll go ahead and pass these around too so you can see how heavy they are in comparison to just like a trash bag or even a freezer bag. They're just a little denser. I'll go on this side for this one. We'll trade out. So those are just some options for the camp kitchen in general, and I know to Jessica's point about weight, less is more for a lot of backpackers. You want an item that is multi-purpose. So for me, turning my cozy into a container just gives it a little bit more bang for its buck in my backpack.
And I do the same thing. I like to keep all like things together in my pack so I don't have to go hunting when I'm ready to eat. I can just grab one or two main things and I know it's all there. One thing that I always take with me is this kind of spork. So I've always been a fan of sporks since I was little. And then I found these, I don't know, maybe about a year ago. They fold in half. This one's brand new, so it's the first time it's been folded. Which makes it even more compactable. But the best thing about these is you get to keep your fingers clean. Because one downside to freezer bag cooking or those pre-made meals is they're kind of deep.
Here's a size demonstration. You're trying to scrape the bottom of your bag, and you can try to kind of fold over the top, but then you've got like little bits of rice that you're flinging out as you're trying to get the material to fold. It doesn't work out so well. So this is my very fond of purple titanium spork. Holds up really well, super durable, but it's really short.
Yeah, so the longer, there's titanium spoons too, anything that gives you a couple extra inches. While you're sitting here eating, you can see the spoon will go down to most of it as opposed to like getting your fingers all down in your food too.
And another option to the foldable one, which I have one of those as well, but I've got one that is two-part. So it's a spoon and a spork, or spoon and a fork rather. It's a little extra long tines for a spork, but anyway, it snaps together and it gives you a little bit of a longer reach as well. Another nice thing with it as well is if you have two utensils, if you are doing multiple things and you want to have a fork and a spoon, you do have that option. And they're super lightweight. Everything's been cleaned, so if anyone wants to check it out, you're welcome. And don't worry, I'll wash them again before I eat with them, probably.
Trail dishes clean or dishwasher clean?
Dishwasher clean. That's a good clarification. So for those who don't know, trail dish is clean. You lick it, you lick the other side off, it looks good, you throw it back in your pack. These actually did go through the dishwasher. I promise I didn't bring any just trail clean level stuff to share and pass around.
All right, so after about 15 minutes, the naked oatmeal, sitting out right now, it's measuring at about 130.
And it started at about 180, right?
It actually started at 170.
Okay.
Somehow there was a 10-degree difference between the waters when I put them in, but
all right.
So that one dropped 40 degrees, and then this one right now is at 138. That one also dropped about 40 degrees, 38-ish. But this is a higher temperature. But yeah, I guess we started out as different water temperatures, so this experiment isn't super valid.
So we need to repeat the experiment is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, I did it last night, and it was, I have my notes, because it was really impressive. It was about 30 degrees difference, the one that was naked versus the one that was covered.
Well, and another thing too that makes a difference, and I don't think you have one of them here, but I know that one of the things you do is you have ones that close over the top, and I know when I'm out, I do fold the top over to hold in as much heat as possible. So that does make a difference as well versus having the top of the bag open and letting all the heat out.
Yeah, that could be part of it too, and just whatever luck we had today. But it's important for food temperature, obviously, to stay as high as possible so that, one, it's tastier, but two, it's safer, right? You don't want to be possibly getting yourself sick while you're out and about in nature.
On that totally valid note, another important part of your kitchen kit, always wash your hands with some kind of hand sanitizer before you eat your food when you're out in nature. There are a lot of things that are very easily picked up, and it's just highly recommended for your own well-being, even without current environmental concerns.
Yeah. So I want to pass out these little kits and then see if you guys have any questions.
I would like to know more about your favorite freezer bag meals.
I really did enjoy the spaghetti that I made the last time we were out. It was ramen noodles, tomato sauce, just like canned tomato sauce. I forget what brand, if it was Lipton or something else, but a spaghetti flavoring packet. And then I feel like there was one other ingredient in it. Oh, Parmesan cheese. Super simple, but it was actually really good. So I will definitely be doing that again. I do like the couscous a lot. And one note with that, dehydrated can be different than dried. So especially with fruits, like the first time I did it with dried blueberries as opposed to dehydrated blueberries. They were still great, but they were much chewier when they were dried as opposed to dehydrated. So those are two that I really like. And the mashed potatoes are really good. They're very hearty. And there's some stuffing mixes too that are very simple to do, and you can put some dehydrated meat in there, or even bring a can of chicken that you open and dump in. Some people don't like doing that because then you have this bulky can, but you could always put it in a different container, like a plastic bag.
You can also do the tuna in the pouches.
Yes.
And I have seen chicken in the pouches as well. I haven't tried it, but I have seen
Yeah,
it.
it's good.
Is it? Okay, good to know.
That would be much better than a can.
Yeah.
So,
Lighter too.
yeah, so those are some of my favorites that I've done in the last year.
Definitely for me, it's the mashed potatoes. I actually found, so I shared a couple of things I put in. I think the favorite way to do the mashed potatoes that I found this past fall was with a little bit of a packet of instant gravy mixed in and some sea salt and pepper jerky. So it added the salt and pepper, it was already on the jerky, mixed it right in, it made it just really hearty and delicious. And with a side of cheese, because I took enough cheese I could have a cheese stick with every meal. It was great. Every dinner, not every meal. And then I actually also really love oatmeal. I really love oatmeal. I came back from doing a 12-day backpacking trip and craved oatmeal. I still eat it several times a month, if not a week. I'm almost out right now. I need to add more oatmeal to the shopping list. But I love dressing up my oatmeal with raisins, or dried cherries are really good. Craisins are delicious. You can pre-mix your brown sugar in. One of my things that I took on the trails, kind of a luxury item, was I found some butter granules. And yeah, and it was marketed for going on popcorn, but you can put that on anything. Yeah. And so it's just this little container of these dehydrated butter granules, and it made the potatoes that much more delicious. It made the oatmeal that much more delicious. And when you're doing that kind of an outing, that kind of an adventure, it's extra fat and you need it. So I was all for like the extra butter. I'm like, that's not enough. We're going to add a little more butter to that one. So it really takes that, what could sound so boring as a dehydrated meal, and gives it a little bit of extra oomph and a different texture and makes it feel richer. And that makes it more satisfying, which is really important as well. At least for me as a picky eater on the trail.
Yeah, cheese can do that as well. And there's the little triangular cheese, which is used in that mashed potato recipe, which it says in the grocery store, and they sell them in the refrigerated area, but you actually don't have to keep them refrigerated. They'll stay fine during your trip without refrigeration. So it's a nice way to add creaminess and kind of bulk up an item.
cheese in general, if it's not a really soft cheese, like a cream cheese, in which case you can get the packets, then you're getting the extra waste. It's a whole other conversation again. But it travels really well unless you're in exceptionally warm temperatures or really drastic temperature changes. And just pack it further down in your pack, keep it a little more protected and temperature controlled versus like up in the top where it's getting a lot of exposure to sun, and it travels great.
You could tuck it in your pot while you're not using your pot.
If your pot has room.
True. Yes,
Yeah.
if it's not full of your stove and your fuel.
Yeah. So there's ways to protect it and keep it from getting soft and mushy.
You can do some interesting things too with herbs and spices, and there's a place in Boulder, it's called Savory Spice, and they have dehydrated like cheddar cheese that you put on popcorn and stuff like that. They've got all different kinds of really wonderful things that you know. And couscous was another big thing that we used to use also in packing up. We did actually motorcycle camping.
Oh, fun.
Ooh.
So,
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, this method works really well for any kind of outdoor activity. Hunters, boaters, like, you know, any reason why you're outside and you want to eat.
You want to eat something hot and with minimal work.
And not just granola bars.
Right. Not just granola bars.
Any other questions or comments?
Nuts are really good at oatmeal too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pecans.
Walnuts.
I also liked adding hemp hearts. Added some
Oh, I've
extra
never tried
nutritional
that.
benefits, some good omegas, and they have a really, if you haven't tried them, they have a very earthy taste. So it was a really good addition. And then chia seeds is another one that mixes well into oatmeal.
That's some good protein and texture, which is what I like about putting nuts in. Is you're not eating this mushy blob. You've got other things in there.
So you had some examples of freezer bags that you don't throw away you don't throw that last longer. But is that one just a regular from the?
Yeah, these are all regular freezer bags, the
Okay.
same thing that you guys got, and so yeah, if it's not damaged, like there's no hole in it, and you take it home and it seems like it holds water again, there's no reason to not use it.
Okay.
Yeah. That style I've gotten 6 to 8 meals worth. And if I'd been more careful, maybe I could have gotten more. But you know, you're tired at the end of the day. You can only be so careful. One thing I will advise against, I mentioned rolling these down so you can reach to the bottom with your spork if the handle's too short. Those are words I'm trying to get all run together into a single word. It didn't work out. If you roll the top of one of those down, it will split that seam on the top. So just be mindful of that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, that's good to know. I double stitch, triple stitch.
No, not this.
Oh, you're talking about the
bag itself.
Phew.
No, this.
Yes, I have done that. I have split the freezer bags.
Yeah, they'll split down the side if you roll the edge. This has been literally tossed around, thrown around, stepped on. And it's taken all kinds of a beating, and I have 0 complaints about it, and it will be joining me on every single trip.
That's how we originally met, because I just live up in Vancouver, and she ordered one, about a year ago.
Yeah.
And then I saw that the address was down in Portland, so just wanted to meet other local adventure people. It's been great.
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned so much.
Vice versa.
Yeah. So, all right. I think that is all the points we had on freezer bag cooking. Although I'm sure we can continue to come up with more if you guys have other questions.
Yeah, but I think we've talked about everything
I
that's
think
on the
so.
table, pretty much.
Pretty much. I think there's a couple other dishes, just for examples of backpacking dishes, if you guys want to take a closer look. I've got my multi-tool up here because that is an important part of my kitchen. Sometimes these don't rip the way you want them to, and you need a way to cut them open. Or you could also cut the top off if your spork doesn't reach the bottom, but then you can't zip it up again.
Yeah, and those are hardy.
They
a
are.
lot of them are designed to be 2 meals,
Mhm.
and so my husband and I split them, and sometimes they even feel like too much.
I eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
There's no sharing that happens. I eat the entire thing, but they are really solid packaging. And another thing to note is if you do see them on sale, this one, for example, is good until February of 2028, so I've got some time. One of these other ones I was looking at earlier goes into the 2040s with the expiration date. So if you catch them on sale and you want to stockpile, which is what I've done, then that's definitely an option as well.
And Costco will sell them in bulk. Last spring, I saw like a 48 pack with 6 or something different flavors in there for a very reasonable price.
Yeah.
Sierra Trading Post is a really good place to get them. They have lots of Mountain House. They have lots of the Alpine Air. The Alpine Air so far has been my favorite.
I do like the Alpine Air.
And then every once in a while they'll have a couple other ones as well, but I usually get them there. They're usually $3 to $5 cheaper.
That's good to know.
And since we do live in the West Coast, maybe preparing for an earthquake.
Yes,
Have a
they
whole
do.
bunch of
I
those.
was gonna say, we have those, we got them at Weimar, and, we have them in our emergency kit for backup.
So it's a slight off topic, but we've gone there a little bit with the emergency preparedness. I was having the conversation with some folks earlier today about how much learning about backpacking and being able to do less with more actually does go into emergency preparedness. So absolutely, knowing how to work with dehydrated foods, knowing how to work with whether it's an instant meal and it's ready to go, or you can put together ingredients to make something that's still tasty and delicious, but also very, very shelf stable, comes in handy a lot when you're talking about emergency preparedness. And that goes into also things like understanding hygiene a little differently, knowing how to filter your own water or treat your own water, being able to do less with more just in general. If I can live out of a backpack for 2 weeks, then I can definitely live off of everything in my house for 2 weeks. So it was just a fun conversation, a different way to look at how backpacking skills actually can turn into real world survival skills.
Yeah, for sure. We watch some prepper shows, just seeing how different people prep for those natural disasters that might be coming through, and it's very interesting to see some of the methods that overlap with adventure methods.
Yeah, something to be learned both